of where something should be but isn't?
In a sense, yes. We look specifically at supernovae and how far away they are. And it's been found that the supernovae are further away than you would expect them to be based upon their distance from us and the Hubble expansion. So something is pushing the universe to accelerate faster and faster. That dark energy must then be everywhere in the universe. And so it's right here in my office. It's right there, in your studio. It's everywhere. And we don't know what it is, except that it has an anti-gravitational effect. So we call it dark energy. And the other interesting thing about it is that you would think that if it does cause the universe to accelerate, then it should thin out, because you're basically stretching space.
Right.
Well, it doesn't thin out. It just keeps sort of filling in. Quantum laws kind of keep making it fill itself in. So it sort of, in a sense, appears out of nowhere and causes the universe to accelerate. So it certainly is mysterious stuff.
Very interesting. So then how does this fold into your digital universe theory?
Well, the digital universe is not really a theory. It's a rather different thing. It's a project that colleagues and I are working on together with a company called Trinity Networks. That's Trunity, not Trinity, but Trinity Networks. We're basically trying to take an idea that Carl Sagan and Isaac Asimov popularized called the Encyclopedia Galactica, and trying to create an Encyclopedia Galactica, which we call the digital universe, a place where basically all the information of mankind will ultimately be stored on the web, of course, now. So it's the process of trying to organize experts from around the world to help build an encyclopedia that will eventually become the Encyclopedia Galactica for mankind. And we call it the digital universe, and we're working together with Trinity Networks to bring this about. Dare I say that sounds a little bit like Wikipedia? Well, it shouldn't be too surprising, because the co-founder of Wikipedia, Larry Sanger, used to work for me on this project several years ago. And in many senses, it is kind of like a Wikipedia, but it's a Wikipedia that would be vetted by experts. Now, the Wikipedia it's kind of a neat thing, and I've contributed to it myself, but it's very unstable in that anybody can edit anything, pretty much. I think they've taken a few articles offline. I don't think you can edit George Bush's article, for example.
Right.
But anybody can get online and anonymously edit an article. So you don't know who has contributed to that article that you're reading. In fact, in one case, about a year or so ago, it was discovered that this supposed professor of theology named S.J. turned out to be a community college student masquerading as a professor of theology. He'd written and edited lots and lots of theology articles for Wikipedia. And he was just a kid, basically. I think the S.J. may have been a joke about Society of Jesus, because S.J. is what the Jesuits used to designate themselves, but no one ever pointed that out.
Right.
But in any event, it was just a student. And you find this problem with Wikipedia, that there's no responsibility for what goes into it, no way to know who wrote what and who they really are.
Sounds like dark energy.
It's the dark energy of literary sort, yeah.
Yeah, it's dark energy that's expanding the Wikipedia universe.
It is, exactly, you're right.
You have no known origin. You can't quite figure it out, but it's expanding nonetheless. And accelerating. It's accelerating and expanding.
You've got it. I think you've solved the problem for us.
So in this, other than putting it online, what would be your hope with your digital universe project?
Well, my hope is to bring it online and to have this become the place where you can find vetted information on any subject that really at all. I mean, any subject that matters, really. I suppose not some of the celebrity subjects, but anything that really matters, that's scientific or engineering or socially important or entertainment and arts. Some place where the world can bring itself together intellectually and be a repository where, people can find what they need to know or they want to know, and believe that what they're reading and discovering is for real.
Well, I like that idea of something being vetted with some sort of authority, but I question you on how you would be able to decide the difference between an article about the arts and something about celebrity, and being able to decide which one's in and which one's out.
Well, in a sense, we don't have to do that, because part of this digital universe is that we have, part of this concept, is that we have sort of two realms. One is the realm of vetted information, where we have the experts signing their articles, putting their names behind what they've written. And the other part is having a place where people can build their websites, and they can say whatever they want to. And the two are clearly distinguished, but they coexist. So if you want an article about celebrities by your favorite celebrity is someone you want to write about, you can do that in the digital universe, but it's not going to be a vetted article that has a seal of approval on it.
So it would be sort of a non-canonical article.
Sure,
sure.
We have lots of articles by lots of people, but the ones that are definitely by experts and by people who have put their names behind that, those will be identified as such.
Okay, once you have that thing up and running online, what more could you do with with that sort of Library of Alexandria like knowledge?
Well, I mean, just getting it all online and keeping it up to date is a full-time project. It'll probably take decades to do that. But what can you do with that? I mean, any time that knowledge is made available, I want to be optimistic and say something good will result. Now, that's not necessarily true, I suppose, given the history of mankind. We've always taken knowledge and turned it to uses that are not necessarily to mankind's benefit. But I'm hoping that this will be something that has much more of a positive influence than a negative potential.
I'd be curious about beaming it into space.
Well, I doubt if our knowledge is going to be of any use out there, because whoever's out there receiving this will probably have a lot more knowledge than we do.
Why do we think that? Why? I mean, I often hear that stated by scientists, an assumption that extraterrestrial life would be smarter than us.
Well, if they discover us, then almost by definition they're smarter because they've gotten here and we haven't gotten there. We're not really very advanced technologically. It's been only 100 years since we've had radio, less than that for television. So it's just not likely that someone else, some other civilization, unless we discover them and they're very primitive, they're going to be more advanced than we are statistically, because, the 100 years is a very little span of time. And if a civilization discovers us, it's much more likely that they've got the technology to have done that because they're much more advanced. It's just a matter of statistics, really.
Really? So the Europeans who discovered the Native Americans were smarter than they were because they discovered them and the Native Americans hadn't made it to Europe.
Well, it depends on what you mean by smart. They were certainly technologically smarter. Yeah, no doubt about that.
I was just using your definition. You said they would have to be smarter because they discovered us and we hadn't discovered them.
Well, smarter in the sense that they knew how to manipulate things better than the others, that had higher technology than the others.
Well, maybe they just have a greater need. They're not any smarter, but if necessity is the mother of invention, that perhaps like so much of our science fiction is based on the belief that somehow they've developed a greater need to get here than we have to get there.
That's true, but I mean, they've developed techniques that one side has and the other side doesn't, and so let's put it this way, they've been more clever.
They could just be luckier.
Oh, I don't think it's luck. I mean, I think that the technology that got the Europeans to the Americas was not luck, it was hard work.
Well, I'll go along with that, but there's a certain amount of luck always in invention, isn't there? That you try 100 different things and you can come across something just on the odd combination of it, and
well, you might, but developing it takes a lot of hard work, and so you might be lucky, but luck is 1% of the process. 99% is, well, I think Edison said that 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Yeah, I don't want to make too much of a point of that, but I'll often hear people, for example, who are bigoted, who are ethnocentric, maybe to use a more formal word, but they cite the fact that name 10 great modern inventions that have come out of Africa, and then think of how many inventions come out of the United States. That they didn't invent the washer and dryer in Africa. So I'm thinking, why invent something that you don't have a need for? If you don't need it, then why would you invent it? And we needed that for our industrialized society, so we invented that. I don't know that that's always a measure of intelligence. All right, so again, we're talking with Dr. Bernard Haisch, astrophysicist. We're talking about the book, The God Theory. And I want to come back and I want to draw what we've been talking about to where we started with the God Theory, and we'll do that coming up in just a minute. Of course, you'll get your chance to ask your questions and get in on this conversation coming up next hour. Also, if you haven't been online yet, there's some great stories in the news section at coasttocoastam.com, one of which was the story we were talking about earlier. Dr. Haisch had looked at the video of the Liberty Lake UFO sightings and said, for him, it's a satellite. No question about it. Not even 50-50. It's a satellite. You can go take a look at that online at coasttocoastam.com. And if you miss crypto news, there's some fun stuff and some great links in my blog at coasttocoastam.com. This is Ian Punnett. So coming up, then we'll get back to our conversation with Dr. Bernard Haisch.